Welcome to the Instagram stories for Saturday, July 26th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill, and we're going to be talking about a variety of different news items today on the show. First, the head of X, Elon Musk, has made an announcement about bringing back Vine. Also, the TikTok ban is back in the news, with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick saying that the U.S. government is indeed planning to implement a full TikTok ban by September 17th. Additionally on the show, Ashley Coffey and I will dig into some AI news. We'll talk about a new privacy-first AI assistant that encrypts all chats and keeps no logs, and the U.S. government's new directives on AI development directly from President Trump's executive office. All of that and more on today's episode, but first, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back. Let's start with the Twitter news. Twitter is also called X. I use those terms interchangeably. The head of X, Elon Musk, posted saying, quote, "We're bringing back Vine, but in AI form," end quote. If you're not familiar with Vine, and it's been shut down for coming up on 10 years at this point, it was a short form social media platform where you would post video clips, but they could be a maximum of 6 seconds long. It was first released in 2012 and was shut down in 2017. And I will say that for short form video being the way we consume a lot of content these days, Vine was really ahead of the curve. What was fascinating to me as a consumer on Vine was that people put so much creativity and storytelling into 6-second videos that it was amazing how much they could do in such a short amount of time. And that's really always how things are. When there are constrictions on what you can do, I think historically, whenever you have constraints on something, that's where you see the most creativity from people. And on Vine, there were some storytelling masters in that 6-second window. One thing I want to call out here is that Elon is saying it will come back in an AI format. I'm not sure that I want to watch 6-second AI videos, but maybe the storytelling is so good in those AI videos that it is something that people are more interested in. Looking forward to seeing how that develops. I will link to Elon's tweet so you can check it out for yourself. Let's move on to the TikTok news. News outlet CNBC posted a video with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who said in an interview on Thursday that TikTok will go dark for Americans unless China agrees to give the US more control over the app. Here's the clip.
Okay. On something else I wanted to come back on you, which is TikTok. There was some reporting yesterday, but I know you did an interview, but I don't think you talked about TikTok. So I'm curious because I know that's also under your just where are we on that in terms of dealing with the Chinese and whether or not they're actually going to allow the algorithm to be potentially transferred and we get a buying group here that takes it out of Chinese control.
Right, it's got to come out of Chinese control, right? We've made the decision. You can't have Chinese control and have something on 100 million American phones. That's just not okay. So if it's in American control, and China can have a little piece, or ByteDance, the current owner, can keep a little piece, but basically Americans will have control. Americans will own the technology, and Americans will control the algorithm. That's something Donald Trump is willing to do. If that deal gets approved then by the Chinese, then that deal will happen. If they don't approve it, then TikTok is going to go dark. And those decisions are coming very soon. So let's see what the Chinese do. They've got to approve it. The deal is over to them right now.
Is it part of the overall trade talks with China?
Well, yes and no. I would say it's not really part of the trade talks, but you can't really go meet somebody and not bring up the topics that are open. So that's sort of, it's not officially part of it, but unofficially, of course, it's going to be discussed.
Sorry about all the background noise there. No idea what was going on with that. I will, of course, keep you updated on the TikTok news as this date of September 17th approaches. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, Ashley Coffey and I are going to dig into some AI news. We're going to talk about a new AI assistant that encrypts all your chats and has no logs, and the US government's new directives for AI development. Stick around. Welcome back. Here's Ashley Coffey and I talking about this week's AI news focused around a new privacy-first AI assistant. Let's continue with our news stories, and we're going to be talking about Proton's new privacy-first AI assistant, which is designed to encrypt all of your conversations between the assistant and not store any logs. Now, this is interesting because this company, Lumo, they do not require you to create an account in order to use this AI assistant. There are apps, obviously, to do it, or you can do it through the website. You can upload files. You can have a Drive account through the company. You can connect it to access files that you have stored in the cloud. And this is really designed for users who care about security, but primarily for European users.
Oh.
The company said that it gives the company a leg up over AI companies based in the US and China when it comes to privacy.
Ooh.
The company made a really interesting chart showing what this AI assistant does in terms of security compared to Gemini, Microsoft's Copilot, OpenAI's ChatGPT, and DeepSync. And the things that it points out is that it never uses your data to train its AI. It deletes the logs of all your chats, can't share your data with anyone. It has an ad-free business model. It's based in a high privacy jurisdiction, and the source code is open to the public. So a lot of pluses here. Ashley, I'd love to get your thoughts.
One, first off, I love that you shared this. I had no idea. This is the first time hearing of it. So thank you. And wow, I'm looking at this chart that you're referencing, and it looks like it hits the mark. So I'm never training, like you mentioned, never sharing your data to train AI models. My question of skepticism is, how are they making money on this front? But I like that they're leading the way. And this is actually something really important for everyone to hear, is that if you want to look at a good framework for AI policy and legislation and framework, look at the EU. It's a gold standard. They have protections in place that have actually worked. And I like that they're giving themselves a leg up by differentiating themselves in terms of privacy. I wish that other companies did that. But this also lends to one of the other stories I think we talked about earlier, is the potential divestiture from Silicon Valley globally, because most things are either on Amazon Web Services or Google. And I believe there was a case out of the Netherlands in which clients of large companies in the Netherlands were asking the companies to not use Amazon Web Services or Google as a part of their contract. So I like the differentiation here between Lumo, because that puts them in a competitive advantage just in case things go south, and just in case the EU says, okay, we're not going to use Gemini, Copilot, or OpenAI or any of these tools because they're not abiding by EU laws and framework. So I'm glad that you mentioned this. I'm definitely going to look into it a little bit further and understand their business model of how they're able to sustain this without doing any of these things. Because I've always wondered, is it possible for us to have something that hits the marks on privacy and can be profitable, but isn't doing anything shady? Like, I hope they're able to do that.
Yes. In preparation for this discussion, I asked Gemini, what do you know about me? And interestingly, the response was that it didn't know much about me. It is designed to protect my privacy. It doesn't know any personally identifiable information about me. So I asked the same question of ChatGPT, what do you know about me? And it gave me my job title, what sort of podcasts I do, who I interview, some projects that I've worked on, what my goals are when it comes to weightlifting and getting in better shape, what my personal style is. It knows a lot about me. So surprisingly, Gemini, not as much data as I would have thought, even though Google knows a ton about me. Contrast with OpenAI's ChatGPT knowing quite a lot about me based on the conversations that I've had with it over the past 3 years. So this is a really interesting one to kind of think about and understand. Do you want your AI to know about you and be able to reference all this information? And who knows what happens with that data afterwards? Or would you prefer that you start with a blank slate every time? And I think that's a really interesting conversation.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you don't have to create an account here. That means friends, family that are wanting to dip their toe in. It's like a really zero risk option to kind of play around.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into our last news story, talking about the new regulations that the United States government has put into place when it comes to AI. Stick around. Let's get into our last story. The U.S. government has issued new directives on AI development. President Donald Trump has issued executive orders designed to make the U.S. more of a leader in global AI development and remove restrictions around key aspects. The AI.gov website has a quote. It says, "The United States of America is the leader in AI, and our administration plans to keep it that way." And then it says President Donald J. Trump. So these directives are really designed to encourage AI development, but I think there are some concerns there. For instance, one of the executive orders alleviates federal regulation in relation to the using of copyright protected content in order to train AI models. This is something we've talked about on the show before, because AI needs data in order to train, but you, as someone who creates content, who has copyrighted information that could be available on the internet may not want the AI model to be trained on that. President Trump says that AI developers simply can't be expected to build a successful program, quote, when every single article, book, or anything else that you've read or studied, you're supposed to pay for, end quote. I think that corporations do have money to pay for the data to train their AI models. Ashley, what do you think?
I'm glad that you picked this, and thank you. This reminds me of going back to when I was a photographer in college and having a photography business and seeing my photos everywhere on people's profiles, people's business, seeing them in ads without knowing. And it was impossible. Did I get any money from that? No, absolutely not. So that was frustrating. And I think people are just getting a taste of that medicine right now of what happens whenever intellectual property and copyrighted material flow out there and you don't get a return from that. It's been happening for years. It's just now elevating in the conversation. Yes, it's hard, but also if you look back to Sora, they literally said on the record in a YouTube video, they used and scraped the entire internet, publicly available YouTube information, YouTube videos, and publicly available Instagram videos and content. So all the publicly available information has already been scraped. So the fact that it's just mind-boggling to me, and the statement that's we're leading AI, we're going to keep it that way. No, we're not. We're definitely not leading that way. And it's delusional to say that. Just quite frankly, we do need some more security precautions in place to protect privacy and humanity and the environment. Will we get there? I'm not quite sure. I hope that we do. We're just really in an interesting time when it comes to AI. I hope that gives you the answer that you're looking for.
Yes. And I think there's a contrast, though, between data that you might put online voluntarily. Mm-hmm. But if you're an author who wrote a book, and maybe you wrote that book years ago and it's a paper book, but some method was used in order to scan that book and put it online, and now it's an AI, but you never released it as a digital ebook, right? You didn't opt into having this feed AI.
So bad.
Should you be compensated, right? And I think that is a real conversation that people should be able to choose whether or not, especially things they've created offline, they want to have AI train on or not. There should be protections in place there, or they get compensated or whatever. That's my thought on it.
Thank you for mentioning that, because that brings up the WeTransfer terms and conditions, where they said, hey, if you're going to use WeTransfer, then we reserve the right to use your photographs and anything you're putting in WeTransfer as our training data.
I hadn't heard that before.
We'll cover that next time.
All right, that sounds good. That is it for our AI news that you should know about this week. You can find links to everything we've discussed in the show notes. You can connect with us on social media. We'd love to hear what you think of the show and how we can make it better. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Daniel Hill Media.
And thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We do this for you. And make sure you're subscribed to be notified when new episodes go live. If you want more tech talk, you can find me on Instagram at Ashley R. Coffee. And you can find my other podcast called Coffee and Code on Apple Music, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if that wasn't enough for you, I have a business called Coffee and Consult, where we specialize in helping small to medium-sized businesses leverage technology for efficiency and profitability. Well, that's it for today, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you all for listening, and come back next week for more discussion around AI news that you should know about.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager, but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually, that's factually a fraction of me. And other fractions posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the Gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course, a book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency. But I got a lot of spam, just putting in the work without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that, there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.